What up, bro?
What's up, bro? How you feeling?
You good?
Yes, sir. Can you see me well?
Yeah, I'm good.
Great, great. Thank you so much for joining me this evening.
Thank you for having me, bro. Appreciate you.
No doubt. We no strangers to each other. You made a trip to New York while I was there, and we met in person, and I'm forever grateful for that. And here we are some years later to talk about the 25th anniversary, which is this year, at some point of your debut album. For those who don't know you or didn't get to know you back in the day, is there opportunity? So I want to kind of take it back just a little bit and then talk about your debut album. If you could take us back to where you were born and raised.
Queens, New York, bro. Queens, New York, born and bred. Queens, dude. New York forever. Everybody thinks I was born in Cali because the label was in Cali, but nah, I'm from here.
What was the day in the life like for Kwest Tha Madd Lad growing up in New York as a teenager?
Man, graffiti, breakdancing, school, of course. Just trying to be a regular teen, running these streets a little bit. Even though moms had a little tight rein on me, I still was in the streets a little bit.
No doubt.
But it was all about the music, all about hip hop for me.
Any obstacles you had to endure growing up in New York?
No, not really, because like I said, my mom and my uncles, they kept the tight rein on me. They wouldn't let me run too deep in the streets. You know, I was allowed to go into the city after about maybe 12, 13, and she always told me, look, if you get lost, this is funny. That's why I love her. Rest in peace, Mom. She was like, look, just retrace your steps. You get lost somewhere, go backwards. So plenty of times I went downtown in Manhattan and got lost in them streets because if anybody knows about the streets downtown in Manhattan, you go down one street and you go down Prince and then it turns into Broadway. You go down Broadway, it could turn into something else. So I just figure out, okay, I got off the train here, turn around, go backwards, and I would get home.
How many times did that work?
A lot, actually, bro, because I'm still here. I ain't lost.
Thank God for your moms.
Thank you, man. Yeah, definitely love moms. God bless her. Rest in peace, mommy.
Absolutely. Can you take us back to what Kwest was listening to before you got into hip hop yourself? What were your earlier influences?
Well, I grew up in a house with a lot of different types of music, bro. My mother and my uncles exposed me to everything: soul, gospel, funk, jazz, even a little bit of rock and roll, because my uncle, they were in the streets and they were kind of sort of not so much rebels, but they were around all different types of people: white, Hispanic, Jewish and everything. So they always brought home a bunch of music. Like we had everybody had to set up the glass case with the tape deck and the amp and the tuner and the turntable on top. So it was full of records, full of cassettes, full of 8-tracks. So I definitely had a lot of different music influences in me.
Can you take us back to your earliest memory? What did you see firsthand as far as hip hop on the block? Was it talent shows? Was it cats doing graffiti, concerts? What did Kwest see firsthand as far as hip hop in New York?
The breakdancer was there, the graffiti was there, because like I said, I grew up in Queens. I was raised in Richmond Hill, and Richmond Hill was diverse. There were a lot of black, a lot of Hispanic. So, the earlier influences, I saw them on the streets breakdancing. I seen the graffiti. But my first real taste of it was, like I said, was the radio. Listening to different shows on the radio, and then when Rapper's Delight broke, that was it. And my uncles, they realized early on that I loved the music and that I was into it, so they would take me to different events. Like, if you've ever seen the video with the breakdancing exhibition in Lincoln Center, I think it was Lincoln Center, Rockefeller Center. I was there. I was in the crowd somewhere with them. Dope. And I remember the early 80s when the Fat Boys had did a show in Coney Island. They took me all the way out from Queens to Coney Island to go see the Fat Boys. I remember sitting on my uncle's shoulders watching the Fat Boys perform in Coney Island, and I was just blown away.
Dope. What a lot of people don't know is that you used to be a dancer and you made a guest appearance in a certain video. Can you take us back to that moment?
Yeah, that came later on after I started rhyming, and I wasn't signed then. I was still out there hustling and trying to get my music on and get people to hear me. I forgot where I went to. I think I went to a casting call for a video, and it was somewhere in like downtown in Queens, and it was a call for TLC's Ain't Too Proud to Beg video. And they liked me dancing. Obviously not enough because I didn't get featured dancing, but I'm in the video. If you blink, you'll miss me. But around like maybe the minute 45 seconds, there's a dude with a hat on, a brown shirt and a tie that does hands, I think left eye, rest in peace, left eye, hands, left eye president, then does a spin. That's me.
Oh, that's an extra fun fact for you hip hop fanatics. Go back after this video and check out TLC's Ain't Too Proud to Beg. We kind of jumped into the dancing. Can you take us back to when Kwest got into rhyming and when you knew you had a penchant for it?
After I heard the message from Grandmaster Flash and the Furious Five, dude, that just solidified it. I mean, I was into it from early on. Like I said, from Rapper's Delight, Curtis Blow, Super Rhymes, Fearless 4, Funky 4 plus one more, the Cold Crush Brothers. We had the battles on tape. You know, we listened to HBI. We would tune all the way back to the back of the stations and to the back of the dial and listen to the stations that were actually playing hip hop. But when it hit BLS and they started spinning it, it opened up a lot of doors for me to listen to it more so. But me rhyming, the message really took me. It grabbed me. So I was like, you know what, maybe I can do this. So I picked up my pen. I wrote a couple of little rhymes or whatever. I'm pretty sure they was whack, but I tried anyway. And then in 9th grade, you know, I started writing more and more, and people started liking what I was spitting. You know, people liked it. I think it was 85, 86, my first year going into first couple of months going into 9th grade, and I took to it, and from then on, I was like, you know what, this is something I want to do.
Can you take us back to Kwest paying dues? What were you out there doing to get your name? What ciphers were you in to get your name known back in the day?
I did a lot of talent shows. There was a talent show network called the All Stars Talent Show Network that would do talent shows featuring dancing, poetry, rhyming. They were all over the city. They were mainly in high schools. And I found out about it. I don't remember how. Like I said, going into the city, you see flyers and people be handing out stuff. So I said, you know what, let me see if I can go into one of these. I never went into the ones in my borough because they were always way out in like Far Rockaway. So I'm like, you know what, I'll go to Far Rock, but I know it was a trek. Even though you live in Queens, people that know Queens, going to Far Rockaway is like going to upstate, because you got to take this train to that train to that train. So I was like, you know what, I could take a straight train into Manhattan. They had them at Martin Luther King, if I remember correctly. I went to the Bronx a lot of times to do the shows. I went to Brooklyn to do a lot of shows. They had them, forget what the name of the school was in Brooklyn, but they had a lot of them in Brooklyn, and I started winning them. I started winning a lot of them. Like I came, most of the times it was either first or second place, and that led me to being into the battle aspect, because I found out that they were having battles all around the city. And I said, you know what? If people like me doing this, just straight rhyming, and it was more so like, you know, my penchant was for the women, for the girls. So I was doing rhymes in the shows, rhyming towards females and getting females' attentions, and they liked this. So I said, you know what? Let's see if I can do the battle thing. I joined a couple of battles and made a good showing. That's how it led to me being into the 1990 New Music Seminar Battle for World Supremacy.
Can you take us back to how that all came about?
I think I just found out about it through word of mouth or whatever. But I know somebody had to put you in, and I still to this day I don't remember who recommended me being in it. If I signed up for something or whatever, but I made it in there, and I remember it was at the Lyric Theater on 42nd Street. Well, the old Lyric Theater. There's no, it's there, but it's a different, different look than it was back then. But uh, there were a lot of up and coming MCs. Tretch was in it before Naughty by Nature. Tretch was in it. He was called Treacherous. L.A. Star. I don't know if people remember her. She had a record on Profile called Fades of Black. She was in it. Kid Jazz, who was signed to Rhyme Syndicate, he was in it. There were a bunch of other different MCs in it, and I was like, you know what? Oh, this is a proving ground. So let's see if I can make a good showing. And like, I didn't win, but I did good enough. I think I made it through like the first 2 or 3 rounds, and Dan Charnas, who became like my best friend and the person that got me signed to American, who was working at Profile at the time rather. He saw me. He approached me after the fact. He was like, dude, I like what I heard. Let's see if we can make some demos. Do you want to try to do this professionally? I said, yeah, let's see. So we went to his crib. We made demos. He had all this equipment. He played bass guitar and everything. So I was like, let's see. And we did like what, maybe 4 or 5 songs out of his crib. And he took the tape to Profile. I think Profile turned it down. But it was all good because he left Profile when Rick Rubin approached him about doing a new label. Rick had left Def Jam and was starting a new label on the West Coast called Def American. I didn't hear from him for maybe a year and change. And dude, I didn't lose ground after I didn't hear from him. I just, I didn't have any backing or anybody that was pushing me to do it. It was basically me, Fadolo, and the people from my neighborhood like, Quest, keep doing it. You good. Right. Keep doing it. And I was doing demos with different producers and doing songs with different producers that I met throughout the way that I had the genuine love for it like I had for it. So we do songs on the strength, and I built my demo up a little bit more. And he called me maybe, like I said, a year and change after he had left New York, asked me that I want to still make an album, and I'm like, definitely. And from there, it was history. Well, my history.
Right. So we're talking about 91, 92, 93 about this time?
Yes, sir.
You released Lubrication, I believe, on Ill Recordings. Is that right?
Ill Labels, which
Ill
was...
Labels.
The one thing I loved about Def American, they let all their artists have a lot of freedom, and they let all their artists have fun with a lot of the stuff they were doing. So Dan said, for these first singles, we'll give every artist like their own imprint. So Ill Labels was like the parent, but Government Cheese Records, which was what I call my label. That was my little thing. Government Cheese Records. If you look at people that still have the record was a green vinyl with a white and green label with my face on a food stamp alongside the founding fathers, and it was called Government Cheese Records. And that's what we put Lubrication out on. And Lubrication did good. I remember Lubrication stayed like #1 for like 6. College radio loved it. It stayed #1 for like maybe 6-7 weeks in Chicago. It was doing good in different college markets, and people liked it.
What other labels, if any, approached you around this time?
Not so many approaching me, but me giving my demo to different labels. I don't know if the Young Black Teenagers were signed to Soul.
Yeah. Hank Shockley.
Bill Stephanie had an interest, but I don't know what happened with that. It never panned out. But that was really the only, like, I really wanted to sign to that label. But it never panned out, and I'm like, damn. But I was still doing the talent show, still battling, still making a name for myself. The Apollo Theater, legendary Apollo, even they were in the hip-hop thing at that point. They had a battle, I think it was every Monday or Tuesday. They had like an MC battle. And I remember winning the MC battle there on stage in front of a fairly decent amount of people, maybe 2-3 weeks in a row. And people that were there, like my boy, Mr. Live, shout out Mr. Live, my homie. He recognized the talent early on. He knew I was a force to be reckoned with, and a few other people that I know had went further on in hip hop or had put out singles, and you know they have a little bit of history. They saw me there too, so it was like people realized early on that I had something.
At what point did Ill Labels transition into inking a deal with American Recordings?
Ill Labels was American Recordings. They just let us have our little offshoot label, but it was always under the Warner Brothers / Def American umbrella. So that was just like their way of giving us having out that one little, you know, have fun with this. And like I said, the people like the Ill Labels thing, but they originally were gonna sign me to a single deal. That's it. They gave me, I think, $5,000 to do a single, and I ended up doing 7 to 8 songs with that $5,000.
Nice.
So the 7 to 8 songs, I'll say maybe 4 or 5 of them ended up on the album.
Okay. The album was supposed to drop, I believe, in '94. What was that creative process like, and what happened with the album not officially coming out in '94?
Politics, bro. Politics. Industry rule 4080.
You were seeing it firsthand.
So many dope artists at the time, and so many, like, not so much weird, but so many just artists that were doing their own thing and in their own lane. I think I got lost in the sauce, and the album was completed quick. Like I say 90-95% of that album was done off the top of the head. Like they give me money to go into the studio. I go into the studio. I had a studio that was downtown, down the block from the World Trade Center, if I remember correctly. They gave me money. They would, you know, I tell them, okay, I found a studio for $30-$35 an hour. They just send the owner of the studio a couple of $100 or maybe $1,000, like Quest record. So I just went in and played with all the ideas I had, whether it was beats I had from other producers or beats that ideas and beats that I had in my head myself. They let me do what I wanted to do. That's one of the things I respect the hell out of them about, because they never really said, Quest, we don't like this. Quest, we don't like that. Anything I submitted to them, they liked it. It might not have ended up on the album, but they never just pass it off like, no, we don't like this, do something else. So I had a lot of freedom, like when I was recording in Firehouse with I can't remember the dude's name at the time, but we engineered a lot of the stuff myself. He helped me produce a lot of the records there. So like I said, I had freedom upon freedom upon freedom, which now, you know, back then was unheard of. The label had you on a set thing. We want you to record here. These producers you're working with, this is what we want you to do, and that's it. They let me just go wild.
So, 94, I believe you released 101 Things to Do While I'm With Your Girl. What kind of buzz did that generate?
I know it was played on a couple of radio stations here. I heard it did really well in the Midwest, of course. Midwest, Chicago, and the surrounding area always show me love. Shout out to Chicago, Michigan, Indiana. They always show me mad love. Detroit, Michigan, West Coast show me mad love. But I think due to the fact that it was a little raunchy, well, not a little, it was a lot raunchy. Let's be real. They didn't know how to push it the way it should have been pushed. So a lot of people fell back on it. It was played on MTV. I remember it was played on BET. I remember being happy as hell because I saw it on Video Music Box, which to people that East Coast people that know Video Music Box, if you get your video on Video Music Box, you feel like you made it if you an East Coast dude. So I remember, even though it was last, I remember that because I was watching it one day. It was, oh, they're going to play your video. So watching the show. 5 minutes into the, 5 minutes before the end, I'm like, oh, they ain't playing my video yet. What the hell? I hear Ralph say, new music from Kwest Tha Madd Lad, dude.
So
I felt like a kid at a candy store, bro. That's the same way I felt the day I heard it played on Flex, when Flex dropped it. I was riding around in the car with my dude Larry, shout out to Mr. Black LDM, and my dude G, shout out to Golly G Wiz. We was riding around in the car in Southside drinking, being young kids, being young adults, just doing what we do, listening to the radio. Didn't know what was gonna come on, and he played it. And dude, that was a big moment for me. Coming from where I came from, you see people do it, and you hear about people that put out records and don't do it. But for me to be, and you know, with my boys, the people that pushed me and encouraged me and always said I could do it and it never gave up on me. It was like, yo, even when I wanted to quit, they wouldn't let me quit. It was a big deal. It was a really big deal for me.
Very much so. Around 94, 95, the album still hasn't dropped. What kind of conversations are you having with the label, and they are wanting you to record more music?
Like I said, they shelved it. And I don't even want, for lack of a better term, they shelved it because they were putting out so many different records and so many different artists were coming out on the label. I don't think they knew how to market me then. So I said, look, we got this album that was done basically in a year or less. You let it sit. It's now mid 94, late 94, well, mid 94, early 95. It's already a year, going into a year of it not being out. Let me go in the studio, do a batch of new songs, because I was on a whole nother vibe then. I wasn't all about the women and the smoking and the drinking. I started focusing on being more lyrical, you know, putting my spin on how dudes were rhyming. It was no longer A-B schemes anymore. I never was really an A-B. I always tried to be really technical. You know, when you freestyling coming off the top of the head, it never comes out A-B. So if you're going to spit, you're going to spit whatever comes out of your head. So I always, when I really started writing, I'm like, let me try to write like I freestyled. So it might stop after 4 words, then start back up a different pattern, start up a different pattern again. That one line might end on the 4th or 5th line, but I always tried to make it cohesive so you could catch the rhyme scheme if you were really listening and you were really into hip hop. We did maybe 7 or 8 songs. But in the end result, none of them made it to the new album because I think they just wanted to put the album out as is. And I know you were the one that put me on to this with the Rap Pages thing. Sheena Lester, God bless her. Sheena, if you listen to anybody that knows Sheena Lester, tell her I love her and I'm always going to love her. She was instrumental in the album even dropping because they wanted to give me the cover of Rap Pages, but they still didn't have a set release date. So I know she spoke with Dan, and I'm not sure if she spoke with Rick, but she was like, look, we want to give Kwest a cover. We want to do a big spread on him in the magazine, but we need a set release date. We can't give him the cover if we don't have a release date. So if the album's not going to drop, we're not going to do the story. So she was instrumental. Like you said, dude, I didn't even have an album out. They were just talking about putting it on the schedule, and she still took the chance to put me on the cover. And that was big, bro. Like you said, I didn't even know that I was the first, or if not the only artist that was on the cover of a national hip hop magazine and didn't even have an album out.
What was that feeling like, going to the store, the bodega, the bookstores, and seeing your face on the cover of Rap Pages?
It was big, bro. It was big because she even took it one step further and got somebody that all East Coast and now I know is all hip hop heads around the world loved. Hip hop heads around the world loved him at the time, but now his status is just, he's a god in this. Barbito Garcia, she got him to do the story. I remember going to his crib downtown and sitting in his crib and we did the interview and I'm like, wow, I was on this dude's show a little while ago spitting and freestyling and now he's doing my interview for what I didn't know was going to be the cover of Rap Pages. I mean, I knew it was going to be a story in it, but I didn't have no idea I was going to have the cover.
Side note, Stretch and Bobbito's show was one of the top platforms for underground artists. Can you take us back to some of your best memories of being up there at that show?
I went up there twice. I went up there once with Rock One, who was signed to Fondlem, and he put out a single, Certified Superior, which was dope. Then he had a song on the flip side, 90 Degrees Apiece. It was me, Shabam, Rock, and was it else? Not El Smooth. El Fudge. Excuse me, El Fudge. Big up to all of them brothers. And Dude, I just went up there to freestyle. I was like, as I said, I know what this show is about. I know people listen to this. Underground heads listen to this. So let me shine up here. The second time I went back, I went with my boy, rest in peace again. My dude, I get a little messed up talking about him. I went up there, and me and my dude freestyled off the top of the head the whole time we went. Agent Hotto. We went up there and freestyled the whole time we were up there. We were feeding off each other and giving each other energy, and we did our whole session up there freestyling. IG off. Rest in peace, my dude.
So, bouncing back to your debut album, which wasn't out, pretty much stuck in limbo. A certain artist came to Firehouse Recordings and gave you a little pep talk. Can you take us back to who that person was?
Yeah, man. I was in the studio, and I think we were recording one of the last songs on the album, Skincare. And, you know, I was busy. I was behind the boards because I produced Skincare. And Carlos Best, legendary Carlos Best, legendary engineer, and he put out one of the dopest break records. I know Real Head got that break record. We were in the studio, you know, doing the final mixes for the song, and he comes in, well, one of the other engineers comes in and was like, somebody wants to see you outside. So I'm like, who wants to see me? So I go out, and it's the RZA. And this is when Protect Your Neck had first came, and they were just making dumb noise in New York. Like, every head knew about that record. He gave me mad props. He was like, bro, I know about you. I heard your records, and he said, I like what you're doing. Keep doing what you're doing. Dude, that was all the encouragement I needed. So I was like, I definitely, if somebody like that was making that much noise and doing it on the independent level, and then they became who they became, legendary status, which I knew from the first time I heard the record, I'm like, these dudes are going to make crazy noise in hip hop. I didn't know that they were going to become the forces they are, but I knew that they were going to be around for a long ass time. If he's giving you props, then Quest, you're doing something right. You know, keep doing what you're doing.
No doubt. What did you take away from your conversation with the RZA? And at any point, did you want to give up, or was it more of a frustration thing at the label?
Yeah, there was definitely frustration because, like I said, I was sitting on a fully done album. They were sitting on it. I had already done basically maybe another whole half of an album, which I wanted to blend in, take some of the old songs off, put some of the new songs on, and give them a more cohesive 96 sounding Quest than just the 92, 93, 94 Quest that they already had on wax. And it was frustrating, bro. It didn't take a toll on me, but it had me thinking, like, you know what, I really don't want to do this no more. Well, I flew out to Cali and I did songs with DJ Homicide. I did more songs here. And the songs that we did, I thought that they were dope as hell. If we had to mix them in with the stuff that was on the album, took a few of the songs away, put more of the newer songs on, I think the album would have made a lot more noise than it did.
We talked earlier about being on the cover of rap pages. We talked about your reaction. What was you getting as far as the general public? Were they like, who is this guy? And did it generate any attention from other labels as far as, you know, trying to get you to sign with them?
No, I think it was more so that they knew I was on Warner Brothers, and anybody that knows Warner Brothers back then, Warner Brothers was like on some stronghold shit when it came to artists. Remember what they went through? Remember what Prince went through with them? So it was like, okay, if you're on Warner Brothers, you're on Warner Brothers. We don't know if we can even approach you because it might be a fight to get you off. We might have to pay X amount of money or whatever. The album didn't do, as far as I know, it didn't move a lot of copies. I mean, people that have it, you got it. Thank you. Thank you for getting it. You all got it. We might do a re-release soon, but the people that have the original, you dudes are lucky because you got something that a lot of people might not ever get their hands on. And I don't know, bro. I mean, I wish another label had have approached me, but I always was on this thing where it was like, God gave me this talent. Maybe this is what I was supposed to do. This one-off album, do a couple of singles with a couple of different people, just get the name out there. Then I was supposed to fade into obscurity. You know, and I really looked at it like that. So in '96, when the album came out and it didn't do what it was supposed to do, and then '97 rolled around and they weren't talking about doing another album with me, and '98 started coming in, and I was just super frustrated. Like, they send me tickets to go do shows. It's like, I'm not going to them shits. I leave the tickets on my dresser and not even go. Oh, of course, we want you to go in the studio and do this. I'm like, I'm not going. And they weren't paying me. You know what I mean? The money I was supposed to be getting, I get it 8-9 months after I was getting it. And I didn't have any job then. So reality set in, and I'm like, dude, go get a job. So I started working a regular 9 to 5. It was, you know, I'm an MC that works now. I'm in the workforce. And I was still going to ciphers and still doing shows after work and still doing little songs and all of that after the fact. But, dude, I was a little broken. But I still had that love for the thing I fell in love with 10, 15 plus years ago. Dude, when that shit's in you and you really love this music, dude, can't nothing take that shit away from you, man. This is our thing. Like, our mothers and fathers and uncles and grandparents had Motown and had B.B. King and had the blues and had Chubby Checker. Dude, this was ours. You know what I mean? And I was fortunate enough to come up in it when I saw it from its inception. I still bug out that I'm older than hip hop. You know, in a sense, I just turned 50 years old in January. God bless the creator for letting me see 50. I'm what, 7, 8 years older than hip hop itself. So I'm like, dude, I'm blessed and I'm happy to be here. But I always was like, I don't know. I don't know if I really want to do this shit anymore. The spark that had me kind of sort of happy about it, Shabam Sadiq and DJ Spinner hit me up in like 90, was it 98? I assume, maybe. I know it was before we went and did the Rap Olympics, if I'm not mistaken.
Can we speak on that just a little bit? Because that's a big deal. I don't want to overlook that. Can you tell me about how the Rap Olympics came about?